Hurry up and fucking start. Are we live? Are we live? Okay, you son of a whore, are we live? Not you, by the way. I'm talking to Google.
I was gonna say, how'd you know my mom was a whore?
Okay, I think we just went live. Hello, everybody.
On that note, man, right out the gate, we're just kicking the door open.
Anyways, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Gaytriarchy. It's me, Saint of Bacon. We're gonna have Feral Cat and Prince of Queens here. They're late, so yeah, we're here. It's me and Spacepan, and because OBS and Google Hangouts is stupid and doesn't like it when things happen. And anyways, Spacepan, can you talk to them before I start rambling?
Yeah, sup, fam? I'm here too. So yeah, this is new. This is the first time we've had only 2 people on the Gaytriarchy podcast for a moment.
We've had one person. We've had me testing shit.
Oh, I guess I wasn't there for that, which, you know,
No,
by definition.
It was just me.
Man, so this isn't even new. This isn't even not done before. All right. Oh, I guess we have to do the intro, right? How does it go?
Oh,
Are you gay? Or maybe not gay and listen to podcasts on the internet? Well, you might like this one. How'd the rest of it go? I don't remember it. I've been sitting here this week after week, and I should have it memorized by now, right?
Yeah, neither do I. I'm usually busy ignoring the warnings in OBS about encoding overload while this is going on. Anyways,
we're gonna write some fantastic intro for the next one too. It'll be a reoccurring feature.
Well, hello, chat. You actually have time to yell at us and ask us questions if you want to for the next couple minutes. So, get them out. Whip out your questions. Come on, whip them out. Oh, Farrell's here.
What up, y'all?
Hello.
Hey, can y'all hear me just fine?
Yeah, we're actually live right now.
Excellent. Yeah, I kind of figured. Sorry about that, y'all.
It's all right. Well, Prince isn't here yet either. So we're just entertaining chat. Because we can.
Yeah,
Or
I'm
can
going
we?
to get chat up there. Sure we can.
Anyways, Prince will be here hopefully shortly. And again, questions. I know there's a delay, but come on, questions. At somebody here.
Yeah, we have some familiar faces in the chat too, which that's my favorite part.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, if I'm getting what chat's saying, I don't think the son of a whore comment was actually caught live.
Oh yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah,
no, he was like, son of a whore, and then he was like, not you, and I was like, how'd you know my mom's a whore? And like apparently that was right when we went live, but apparently
well, you know, word kind of gets around. No, I'm kidding.
It's okay though, since I just explained what happened. That's like the same as having the joke just happen organically. So I'm glad we recovered that one.
Yep.
Nice.
Leaving no man behind. Oh, Rick says yes, it was. Good.
Oh,
Good.
well.
That's good because now we know exactly when we started.
Yes. We caught hardway through the son of a
God, we're so organized. We're so organized today. This is great.
I mean, considering I'm getting late now for my job, so hey, I'm on top of things. I'm actually faster than I was beforehand. Oh, hello.
Are we live yet?
Yeah, we're live.
Oh, okay. So how about that guest? Let me try to get him. Send him a Facebook message.
Don't worry, Prince. I botched your intro, so we got that box checked, and then we can go on.
I was assuming that you would probably be the one who ended up doing it. So inbox. Where is he? Oh, he doesn't get off work till 8:30. He said, but okay.
Tell him I said he could go home early. Anyone asks.
Okay, so I join if you can. So let's take a look at this guy. I just want to see who he is, anyhow. Because why can't I just look at his fucking actual profile account from my fan page? That's view profile. There we go.
Hey, Prince.
Hi. Oh wait, this isn't the same guy. Oops. I was getting messages confused. Okay. Wait. Who is it the okay. Oh. Okay. Well, I just sent it to him. Maybe he was waiting to get it from me because he said that he will be home and he's on his computer. Maybe he didn't know what your deal is, and
I sent it from the Gaytriarchy main account.
Okay. Well, let's hope he shows up. So, sorry guys. I was just trying to, so I have my little Friday ritual of like going and getting some food and getting some tiramisu. I'm trying to figure out what's the best tiramisu within walking distance of my house because I live in Seattle and there's like lots of restaurants, Oh, here he is. Oh, your audio is all messed up, but I'm glad you're here. You might want to leave and then come back, because that sometimes fixes it. Or you might have to change the connection rate.
Getting some food and getting some tiramisu. I'm trying to figure out what's the best.
Okay.
Walking in my house because I live in Seattle.
I'm gonna mute him. Could you mute him for the time being, Bacon?
If I can figure out how to mute somebody.
You click on their icon, the upper right part of the icon, and then you say mute.
You might want to and then come back. That fixes it.
Okay. Well, he'll be back, I imagine. Yes. So, so I went and got some food, and I was already thinking that I was running late. I got really into like rage playing Overwatch today. So you guys, I don't know if anybody else has like noticed this. Probably not, because I'm the weird one with the weird clairvoyance. There is a great disturbance in the Force at the moment, worldwide. Like, there's some creepy shit. Like, the Empire is aligning to make a move, and I think that there's just too many like strange coincidences going on at once, and it makes me think. So Jeff, you need to certainly close the playback window, like whatever window you're watching it on. You need to close, because this echo is gonna just drive me crazy, and I won't be able to talk with it. And I imagine other people feel the same. So,
worldwide, like there's some.
So Jeff, could you maybe mute yourself while you figure out your audio?
Like the Empire is aligning.
Okay.
Oh, I think I see what happened. He probably has the YouTube page up.
Yeah.
To watch the streaming, and it's feeding back through. Typically, I mute mine if that helps him.
Yeah. That's what he should be doing, and
Right, see if that makes a difference.
Oh, I can hear you now.
Totally hear you. Hey, how's it going, man?
Hey, Jeff. Oh, now we can't. So there's a device thing. If you click at the upper right hand corner, you can click on the bandwidth thing, and you I think you do like incoming, and you go down to the lowest one, or go down to audio only, or something like that. And I think that it will improve your quality. Is what I remember. And I never have to worry about it because I have pretty good Wi-Fi. But that's what I remember. But okay. So sorry. I wanna talk for a little bit. I was getting my tiramisu, and the place I was getting it from wasn't first they weren't sure if they could serve it to me because they serve it in these little glasses that they have. So I have a new glass that they gave to me. And then I'm like, yeah, they're like, oh, you're not going to eat it here, and I'm like, no, I have to go back home for a work appointment. And they're like, oh, okay. And then seriously, like there was change, like there was about like 70 something cents in change, and this girl is like counting pennies, like fucking sitting there like counting to like 15 pennies or something. And I'm just like, oh my god, just keep all of the coins. And she's like, are you sure? And I'm like, yes, I have to go, that's the whole point. So that's why I'm a little bit late, I apologize. But okay, so there is a lot of fucked up shit just happened in the past week. And you know, like it's when people accuse me of being a conspiracy theorist, sometimes that's true, and sometimes I'm saying just kind of like conspiracy hypotheses or hypotheses, and I know that, and I'm aware of that. But when it comes to the regressive left, when it comes to the Islamic governments that are tied to various Western political parties like the EU and the Democratic Party, and then the Democrats and the EU's control over media and social media, there's no theory about it. That's definitely happening, And it's just like all that we are doing as, quote unquote conspiracy theorists is trying to figure out what they are up to exactly and when, because they never tell the truth. They're always lying. And there's been some very shocking developments that have happened within the past week, and they have me nervous for the summer. Like I really am starting to get nervous, mainly about what's going to happen over in Europe. So the three main things are the first thing I heard about was the Tommy Robinson being wrongfully prisoned in the UK. There's if anybody is unfamiliar with Tommy Robinson, hopefully they're not by now, because I mean, you're on YouTube. But he's a very outspoken British man who speaks about the massive surge in crime that is coming from Muslim immigrants, the Muslim population that's in Great Britain. And as everybody knows, they're really, really bad over there. There's like rape gangs and acid attacks and radicalization that happens within the borders of the UK very frequently, more so than anywhere else in Europe. And the average citizen of Great Britain is against this, but they have very little control because Parliament over there is just ridiculously unanimously far left, even the Conservative Party. And the mayor of London is actually Muslim. And people say, well, he's just the mayor. Well, yeah, but London is like Washington, D.C., New York City, and LA all rolled into one. So the mayor in London has a lot of power. I don't fucking care who the fuck tries to argue with that. You're dumb if you don't understand that. So, like, this guy is kind of like the people's hero of the working class. He's, a blue collar guy that, he's I don't think he's known for being the most intelligent guy out there, but he's not stupid. And he's also fairly tough. Like if they try to fight him in a group of 6, which they have, Antifa's come after him, he fights back. And so he's not scared to stand up to the bullies. And they wrongfully prisoned him. They arrested him sometime last year because he was taping inside of in a court for I think it might have had to do with the Muslim grooming gangs, or it might have been some other crime. But he was taping inside the court, and that's actually well known to be relatively illegal. I think that there's probably some technicalities where you can do it or can't do it, but that was, there was an established law that he was breaking. This time, he was arrested for taping outside of the court, which nobody ever knew of that ever happening. He was just wrongfully arrested and then not even given a trial and has been convicted for 13 months. And there's a gag order on the press, so they can't talk about this. And honestly, I'm not gonna fucking pad this with a bunch of fucking sugarcoating. This is a calculated move. They are instigating something. They are instigating the British people to react. That's how fucking Islamists are. They want the West to fight back. It's in their fucking religion. Like, if you can't win the holy war, then you fucking die trying. They want something to happen. And that's what they're fucking doing. I don't know who the hell this judge is who did this, and maybe no one can even, like, maybe the British people can't even report because they'll go to jail if they even say who this judge is. So for all we know, it's some like Islamist judge, because hey, the mayor is, we don't know, and they're not allowed to talk about it over there. So that's really, really fucked up. The next thing that's really, really fucked up, and keep in mind, Great Britain tried to no longer be in the EU, but they're still in the EU. They can't break free from the fucking EU. Well, the EU is trying to end the internet, basically, which there's a little bit of a debate about how hyperbolic that is. Computing Forever made sort of the first video about it, and then Tim Pool responded, and Tim Pool's trying to be a little bit more optimistic, like maybe this is not really that bad, and Computing Forever is kind of like the sky is falling, which he can be a little bit reactionary at times, I will admit, though granted Tim Pool can be too, but basically the EU is trying to put in place a bill, and it's going to be voted on in the end of June, so the end of this month, where people aren't allowed, like, it's a massive restriction on copyrights, where you can't even links to other pages. Like, so if you have a blog and you want to cite a news story, you can't link it, and it's absurd. And okay, so if this bill were to pass in its full form, which it's absurd that people would act like it would, and that the citizens of Europe would be okay with this, that would destroy the internet in Europe. And so all of social media, like Google, YouTube, Facebook, would have to just stop serving clients in the EU. Just, they would have to protect themselves. They'd be like, okay, if there's going to be fines for every time somebody shares a story on YouTube, we can't do business with this entire continent. So that would just end the internet in the EU. And then the other thing that I just heard about today, Spain, which is, remember, if you look geographically, the southernmost nation in the EU, and it basically borders North Africa. Spain's conservative, in quotes, whoever the quote unquote conservative prime minister of Spain was, I don't know how conservative he really would be by, the standards that we mostly talk about in the United States. He has been ousted and has been replaced by a socialist. And that just happened today. So there is some creepy shit going on in Europe right now. And, it really doesn't help that they're firing Roseanne, and like lying about her, like she didn't even know that woman is black, because, hey, who did? Did that woman fucking look black? I had heard that woman was the brains behind the Obama administration. Like there were any brains behind the Obama administration. It's like the fucking most moronic, administration in human history. Like, oh yeah, let's take an already huge national debt, times it by 4, and then legalize the usage of propaganda on the American people so we can lie about it, and then call everybody racist and sexist if they get mad. How about we just do that? That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Way to go, senior advisor Valerie Jarrett. Oh, so it turns out that you were born in Iran and your family literally does have ties to the Muslim government, and no one's supposed to like say anything about that ever? Okay, and you're gonna fucking fire Roseanne, who has like the most popular sitcom on television, who happens to, you know, be a supporter of the president on the show. You're just gonna fire her and say that she said something racist because she was saying that she looked like because she does look like that one character. All of this stuff, I mean, that part is not, you know, necessarily in any sort of alignment. Like, they're doing that kind of thing all the time to Roseanne. But I'm fucking annoyed right now. You know, it takes a lot to I can deal with a lot in my personal life, and if anybody knows me and knows the weird things that are going on with me, like, I can let that roll off my back like fucking droplets roll off of fucking ducks back after they dive after something, you know? That's just the type of guy I am. But when things get serious, and I think things might be about to be serious, I get pissed off, and I play video games all day, and I yell at random like 13-year-olds because they're not playing good enough. So that's what kind of happened right now. I'm gonna have a few bites of my tiramisu.
You're like, get good, 13. Don't you know that there's a fucking conspiracy happening? We have to get better.
Yeah,
our fucking Overwatch skills are gonna matter. Shit, like,
yeah, we're gonna have to
using
pilot.
Doomsday Preppers, damn it.
We're gonna have to pilot the drones soon. You little dumbasses! Fucking get it together. Get it together, Troy.
Hell yeah, that's why I'm leveling up in Ragnarok online. Gotta have some of that battle sage shit.
Oh yeah.
When the Illuminati comes.
Oh,
I just want to say though, like, the whole Roseanne Barr thing, everybody's taking this kind of like halfway stance of like, oh yeah, I guess it was distasteful, blah blah blah. My stance is the only thing she did wrong was apologize.
Me too.
I'm so disgusted that she apologized and blamed drugs. Like, I don't care about your fucking Ambien. I don't care. I thought it was funny. And like, here's the thing. I don't care. Like, let's go ahead and just like spin this the absolute worst way imaginable. Let's say that she doesn't like black people and she thinks they look like monkeys, and she knew Valerie Jarrett was a black woman and she deliberately made that comparison in order to be racist. She looks like the fucking monkey from Planet of the Apes. It's not racist unless she doesn't look like it. I'm sorry. Like, it has to not match and you're saying it anyway to be racist. That's the only way that counts.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't get to just like accidentally be like racism per se. That's
yeah,
bullshit.
if you're fucking saying that Rihanna looks like fucking Planet of the Apes, it's like, okay, you're a racist. But like, no,
she does. Yeah, and it's like, and like, if you think about like the way makeup is, like, it kind of makes people look like Muppets. Like, that's just a reality, and it's funny, and you can laugh. And it's like a comedian told a joke on the internet. I have this new approach to scenarios. It's the clue approach, where you break it down, right? Like, who killed who with what in what room? I'm like, okay, so it was Roseanne Barr, a comedian. Okay, what did she do? Okay, she told the joke. Okay, so a comedian told the joke. Okay, where? On the internet. Okay, a comedian told the joke on the internet. Okay, who was hurt? Well, no one really. Like, she was sort of black, but not really. But it was kind of racist, but not. But she totally looks like the monkey. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, you couldn't even start a fucking clue game with this premise. This is bullshit.
Yeah, my whole opinion on this is like, it's Twitter drama. Who gives a shit?
Thank you.
But
I'm saying in the grand scheme of what she did in the conflict, it's like, why do you care?
But
Roseanne is no stranger to controversy anyhow. I mean, those of us, and I am going to date myself a little bit with years here, but there was one point where she sang the national anthem.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, tell a story.
Well, she made it bad completely on purpose, and there was this huge uproar over that. This is nothing new for her.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was listening to Joe Rogan talk about her, and Joe Rogan's old. Like, you would think that he's like, in his 40s or so, but he's like 55 or something. And he was on television in the 90s. He was on the show News Radio, Back when he was hot, by the way, he was fucking hot in that show.
Joe Rogan was hot.
Yeah, look up pictures
Really?
of Joe Rogan from News Radio. He was fucking sexy. You want to fucking rip his little suit off, dude. So he knew, and he was a stand-up comic back then, so he knew a lot of the comics from, you know, around the 90s and shit. So he's personal friends with Roseanne, and he talked to her. Right? Are you looking at him from the 90s?
Maybe. Yeah, I'm gonna save these for use in a future podcast. Yeah, that's it.
No, and he was like ripped and shit too, because he was like a competitive Taekwondo fighter and shit. Like, okay, so
Hold on, I gotta turn the fan on.
so okay, what he was saying about her is that the reason that Rose, and I vaguely remember this because I think my dad really hated her, because my dad had issues with feminism when I was a kid. Understandably so, because my mom was a feminist, and like that kind of came up during their divorce, and then there's all sorts of shit. Which and it's weird too, because like a lot of people would assume about me that like somehow that shaped my view of feminism and everything, but it really didn't. I always sided with the feminists and thought that my dad was awful until just a few years ago, when I figured out what really happened with, you know, like the whole my mom and my dad divorcing and everything. I was like, oh, so wait, my dad was right about everything. Oh God, I didn't know. But so like the thing about Roseanne was that she got famous by being a loud, obnoxious, unattractive woman who would just like rip stupid men to shreds. And she was not afraid of hecklers and was not afraid of like there I don't know, maybe with the exception of somebody like Joan Rivers, there wasn't women who were comedians who were confrontational in the same way that Roseanne was. Or maybe there were a few, but you know, like that was what she became really well known for doing. And so she became this sort of like notorious, unattractive, like kind of like Rosie O'Donnell type figure who was like, well, screw you, you're all just men, you're stupid, man.
Yeah,
and so they asked
Roseanne's funny.
So they asked her to sing the national anthem, and they did it to like make fun of her. Like it was some sort of a insult to her, is what she felt. And so she was like, well, why don't I'll do it then. I'll go ahead and do the thing. So she ended up doing it, and it became a huge controversy. All these people hated her. But it was kind of her way of saying "fuck you" to the people. So, yeah.
You compare Roseanne to Rosie O'Donnell, or Rosie O'Donnell is not funny. I don't understand how she got to be so famous.
She was a good actress, though. Like, she was fun, and well, okay. I don't know. No. All I can think of her is A League of Their Own.
She was great in that. I liked her in that.
Roseanne, I don't think she's done. I mean, as you said, yeah, that is her thing, is being this brash, loudmouthed woman who doesn't pull any punches. And I'm reminded of a quotation from Oscar Wilde in the I can't remember the play, but something to the effect of, the one thing in life worse than being talked about is not being talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that applies to her. She is, I mean, that now, yeah, she got canned from her second season, but she's still, people are talking about it nonstop across the world.
Mm-hmm.
She's still in the public eye.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Just finished my tiramisu. Ranted a little bit about general political happenings. Talked about Roseanne. Oh, so I don't know if you guys listened to my little preview video, but I want to make this whole episode kind of will not make the whole thing, and we can obviously talk about whatever, but I want to have the theme of this kind of be the divergent sort of strains of homosexual culture, because there is this is something that Katz brought up on the last show, and he was saying something, and I had to interrupt him and say that what he was saying is not entirely true. And okay, so this is what I would say. There's sort of three distinct aspects of gay culture, and Jeffrey, or AKA the Gay Huntsman,
Yes.
when he comments, he wrote quite an interesting blog post that I was looking at, and I will ask Bacon to link it underneath this live stream so that people can go check it out. It has a lot of historical information. I was only able to get through about a third of it, and then I realized I should just have this guy on the show and talk to him. But he goes through various different quotes and talks about the inception of what became gay culture in the United States. But that was in the 1950s, 1960s when it started really brewing. But now, 60 years later, 60 plus years later, I guess, really, things are a lot different. And we have different sort of strains of gay culture. And granted, there's a massive slew of different subcultures within gay reality. But I would say that there's kind of three kind of distinct kind of types of gay men. And the three distinct types are, the first, which would be homosexual men who more or less would be content to basically largely live like heterosexual people, or at least they want to try. And a lot of the time, these guys don't necessarily live in urban centers. I don't know how well they do in terms of monogamy. Like, I don't know if they actually keep monogamous relationships. They try to act like they do. I don't know if they really do. But there's
monogamy, marry a swan.
What's that?
If you want monogamy, marry a swan.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, could work. But,
No, it's a quote, a swan's mate for life. They don't. And
oh, I
they
see what you're
don't.
saying. I was like, I guess a hot guy.
Wow.
I'm not always. I don't always get things. So okay. So, yeah. There's the homosexual guys that would, for whatever reason, try to completely blend into heterosexual society, and those guys are definitely out there. I don't know how many of them there are. And I think that the thing is about them is that a lot of them are relatively closeted. Because you go on Grindr and stuff, and you see lots of guys that say DL. Like, that's not uncommon. There are guys who are having gay sex that aren't out, even still. So there's those guys. And then there are the Pride Parade guys, the intersectionals. They're the guys that think that they're part of a big community called the LGBTQIA++ with a black fist in the center. And it is this kind of ultimately what it really is this weird authoritarian hierarchy system of people telling people how they're supposed to behave and what political views they're supposed to have based on their homosexuality. And it jurisdicts just about everything from what type of, how they vote, what type of trends they're into, like, are they into drag, or are they, fucking whatever. Like, they have these like horrendous fashion campaigns where, like, they're trying to bring, like that Caswell rapper, the rapper named Caswell has he was trying to make femme fashionable, even though he's not feminine at all. But he had this video where they're all wearing like lace shorts and shirts, and it's just horrifically awful fashion. But all of that came from weird hierarchical top-down, training gay men to be obedient to intersectionality. And that's what, the Gaytriarchy is largely, or Gaytriarchy, not necessarily so much GigTow. That's what GigTow would be a response to, obviously, right? Is getting away from that part of gay culture. But there's a third part of gay culture. And this third part of gay culture isn't extinct. It's just in hiding because it's scared. And the third part of gay culture is what I consider myself and have always been since I first came out, which is the guys who are gay and gay guys who have fondness for certain things that for whatever reason gay men love. Like, why do gay men love that movie, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane? Have you guys seen that?
Nope. I have not seen it.
Yes.
It's been quite some time ago, but yes.
Very
I
chilling.
haven't even heard of that one.
You haven't seen it? Oh my
Film
god, you would
noir.
love that movie.
Oh,
so
shout out
much.
to Caswell and the fucking things too.
Betty
I think
Davis
Caswell
and
mentioned I missed that.
Joan Crawford.
Yeah, Betty Davis. Okay. So this movie, Derek, mute yourself. Oh, okay. So this movie is it must have been made, I think it was made in the early 70s or the 60s, but it was made to look like it was a little bit older because the plot of the movie is that these are two like washed up stars, and it was made after both of them's they were both Joan Crawford and Betty Davis they were past their prime, and they weren't getting starring roles like they used to. And I don't know, I imagine the director like had to be a gay guy or some shit because it's this like completely sadistic movie where the Joan Crawford character was a movie star, and she was like a full super famous adult movie star and was in many movies, but she's crippled, like she is in a wheelchair, and her sister takes care of her, and her sister is played by Betty Davis, and her sister is a massive sadistic drunk who's jealous of her because the Betty Davis character, who's Baby Jane, Baby Jane had been a child star briefly, but like wasn't actually all that talented. And so she was really cute when she was a kid, and then her sister got famous as they got older and became a full grown adult, and she was always jealous of her. And then her sister got crippled, and she looks after her and is completely sadistic to her. And that's what the movie is their little like craziness. And it's such like it's not like there's any gay guys in the movie or anything, but it's so gay. Like it's like the gay, I and gay guys just love it. Like for whatever reason, it's this gay classic, and there's a lot of different things like that. If you go to New York City and you start hanging out in fashion culture or the certain galleries, and there's just so many things that are distinctly gay male culture, and it's not activisty, it's not political, it's just there's this weird collective unconscious energy that gay guys kind of share with each other, and it's often very non-politically correct, and can be very cruel at times, and honestly rather selfish at times, like a lot of excess, and but it is sort of like a visceral feeling that gay guys sort of share with each other, and I think that a lot of people misunderstand that. And so, Jeff, that's
Yes.
sort of the intro for what I wanted
Okay.
to sort of shape this about. Do you find any similarities? Does anything I just said ring true to that article that you wrote? Because it sort of seemed like you were investigating into that duality in that article.
Yes, that sounds. Yeah, you're on track. Yes, the so-called heteronormative, the criticisms that's lobbed at those gay men who want to assimilate.
Mhm. But okay, but what do you think about the difference between the the queer orthodoxy and the homosexual male culture? Is that something that you've looked into much in your research?
Well, I guess I'm just looking back over the years of my own experience, seeing what the changes that came about, and my own history. My grandmother was counseled lots of homosexual men at the end of the 1960s and into the 1970s. So when it was still here in Canada, at least, still was not really tolerated. So I've seen that, yeah, and in my lifetime, it's gone from it was a crime up until 1969 in Canada to now we have pretty much full civil rights, gay people. And but it bothers me, like Toronto Pride. The Pride Parade in Toronto started as a protest back in the early 1980s to a series of raids on bathhouses in Toronto by the Toronto Police called Operation Soap. So gay men organized a parade to protest this because by then it was no longer a crime to have gay sex, but they were still harassed. And now it's been taken over, as you say, by this hierarchical, intersectional. Right now they're squabbling, they're fighting amongst themselves, is what trying to decide whether it's race or trans that are the most oppressed.
Well, obviously the answer is Muslim.
Well, to be fair, I'm interested in converting, and I don't what you believe and what you practice, as long as you keep it at home and out of the public realm, then that's fine with me. It's pray on your own time and on your own dime.
So they actually practice, like they
yeah, they go to the mosque. Right now it's Ramadan, so they're fasting.
Huh. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. But they're Canadian. They've taken up Canadian citizenship, and they've accepted that the reality is in the West that you're free to practice whatever faith you want, but you cannot expect. I mean, you can't. Well, I guess you can in your own life if they decided they didn't want to have anything to do with me. That would be their problem. But as it turns out, they're not bothered at all.
Well, yeah, that's. I hope not.
Yes, I'm very leery of Islamists. No, don't get me wrong. And yes, and also you made comments about London and the goings on there. Well, I lived in England as a boy 2 years, 1968 to 1970. And I remember my memories of London then, when London was a distinctly English city. I came back to London 35 years later, and I can honestly say London isn't English anymore.
That's interesting. Yeah, you're saying about knowing people that are Muslims and everything. I actually I've been meaning to maybe make a video out of this. There's a store that is somewhat close enough to my house that I walk by it on occasion, and I do go in there occasionally, and I talk to the guys that are there.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the guy who owns it is, I mean, they seem pretty obviously Arabic. And there's one guy in particular who speaks on his Bluetooth, mobile device and speaking in Arabic. And they say hi to me and, everything. Like I kind of know them. And but it's not all of them are Arabic. Like there's one guy who's like East Asian who works there.
Yes.
But I have never gotten any distinct impression that they are Muslim, and for all I know, they're Arabic but not Muslim, I just don't know
Yes, they
because
could be Maronite Christians or
just not religious. Like they
just
they,
nominally. Yes.
they could be people who got away from the Middle East and didn't want to be religious. Like that
Well, that's
happens.
a lot of the people do that. They came, and that's what a lot of the protests against what they view as the Islamization of Canada. They're angry, like raising a concern that we came here from Iran to get away from this. Why are you? Would you insist on imposing it on us?
That's interesting. That's an interesting angle. So I was actually walking by and I noticed that somebody had spray painted on the side of the store ISIS, or like support ISIS on it or something. And I was like, oh, that's weird. And I was walking somewhere else, but then I had to traverse back, or somehow I ended up walking by like later that day, and they had painted over it within 6-8 hours. They had totally painted over all of it. So it made me think like, oh, I wonder if this has happened before. And it just made me think of a lot of questions. But a funny thing about it is I could swear that one of the guys is gay. Those guys that work there, there's about 4 or 5 people that I see there total, and the guy that seems gay, I haven't seen him in a while. He hasn't been around for the past maybe 6 months or so. I don't go in there that often, but I haven't seen him. But he totally sets off the gaydar, So it's interesting to think of all of that. But...
Well, there's my impression and talking to my friends is from where they're from. They're East Indian. They're all from the middle classes, the educated, I mean, westernized, but they tell me in the more remote, rural parts, you get people where the honor killings and such, that this is a reality, that people, family honor is so important that they do kill to maintain it.
Yeah.
And then so when we have people, like we had a case in Toronto in the past few years, a man, he died in prison recently. He strangled his teenage daughter because of a dispute, because she didn't want to wear the headscarf anymore.
So sorry, you broke out for a little bit, and I just want to clarify. Okay. He strangled his teenage daughter because she didn't want to wear the hijab anymore.
Yes.
Oh, that's awful.
And then this was agreed. Well, and this, because this made him lose face. They came from rural Pakistan, so in his extended community, having a daughter who defied him and went against everything. And my friends tell me, when honor is sullied in that and in this community, the whole family becomes untouchable, that no one will have anything to do with them or allow any of their family to marry, and the only way they can regain their standing is to kill the person who brought the shame on them all.
Mm.
So
Seems pretty kind of acts like the leftists in the West. And
yes, it's yeah, they take it very seriously, and it's bad enough, I guess. It happens in other parts of the world, but if it starts showing up here, well, then we have a problem.
Mhm. Yeah. So I just want to remind people that are in the watching this, if you want to smash that like button, we would appreciate it, of course, because we're just beginning this little channel. It happens once every Friday, so that would be great.
Also, can I add something else?
Absolutely.
Chat, if you do want to get our attention, remember at Gaytriarchy or Streamlabs Prince. It's Streamlabs, right?
Oh, you can Streamlabs me? That is possible. Yeah, you can do streamlabs.com/Prince of Queens live streams, which I often don't really have open, but I can.
Yeah, so if you guys want anything read, either at us, that might get my attention, or...
Yeah. Oh, by the way, guys, I might go to VidCon. I can afford it.
But you don't have a makeup tutorial channel.
I know.
Set you
Oh
up.
my god, you have to take a picture with Jake Paul. It'll be the coolest
We'll
thing
set you
ever.
up.
You need to do a face reveal, and it's gonna be like a fan picture with like you and Jake Paul.
Oh my god, that would be amazing. I've actually done a face reveal on Twitter. Did people not know that? It was it was the dumbest thing that happened. So this is just a funny little tangent. I did a face reveal on Twitter, and it was on my birthday, on February 2nd, it's my birthday, and I was at
I do.
Really?
Yes.
Wait, did Gay Huntsman say that?
Yep.
Okay. So, I was at a party with Sister Danger, because we're actual real life friends in Seattle. We went out to a party. I was drinking. It was kind of a crazy party anyway. Like, actually, quite a crazy party. She knows all the air organizer, okay? Like, that's the type of people she
Yep, that's the belly of the beast.
yeah.
True.
Yeah, so we were at some like party like that, and it's some house that some guy owns, but there's young people there, and then some of them are pretty hot. There was this one guy who was like actually a stripper, and he got naked, and they were like pouring wax on him in the middle of a room, and like that was kind of cool. So I loosen up, and I tell, hey, it's my 36th birthday. I'm just gonna start wearing wigs. I need to get more. I only have that one. So I was wearing that, and I decided that I might as well take a semi-incognito photo of myself. So I put my phone up, slightly covering the bottom of my face, and I took a photo of myself not in a mirror, but in a window. So you can't really see me that well. It's like a kind of a dodgy photo. And I decided to tweet it. What could possibly go wrong? And remember, this is back in like February, when there was like a little not army, but there was like 15 people that were glued to the internet 24/7, trying to start shit with YouTubers. Like any YouTuber that was on the hit list, they were supposed to just constantly fling shit at and everything. And I was one of them, because reasons. But that being said, I post this picture, and it's my 36th birthday, which I had made more than clear. I had talked about it online enough, and I said, 36, I'm not scared of you, never have been, you're my bitch. And that's there was a reason that I posted that, like a personal reason, which is that I actually really believe in astrology a lot, which a lot of people on YouTube, being that this used to largely be the atheist sphere, then turned into the skeptic sphere, and now it's like morphing into some new thing that will probably reemerge into the the year 2020. But I am not exactly some like hardcore atheist. I don't like to define my spirituality or whatever, but I do notice that astrology makes sense to me. I'm an Aquarian. I am a part, like every single Aquarian trait, you can be like, oh yeah, that is what Prince is like, huh? And the thing about astrology is that it goes in 12s. So there's the 12-month cycle and then the 12-year cycle. And the 12-year cycle, which we normally associate with Chinese astrology, is very significant. And your 36th birthday is said to be like your 36th year is said to be the most important year of your life in terms of your adulthood. Like that's the year that it's kind of like the audition for the rest of your life. Like if you do well in your 36th year, then you will have a good rest of your adult life. And I was feeling like maybe I should do that. And so that's why I posted a picture of myself from a kind of an obscure little thing. And then this girl who I wasn't even like actually ever friends with. And honestly, it kind of, I don't want to say I like disliked her, but I didn't really like her very much. Like I just kind of found her kind of boring and like, just she hangs out with drama queens. I never saw her like directly get in drama herself, but like everybody she hangs out with is just drama queens, and it seems like all she ever does is talk with other people about stupid drama that I don't care about, you know? So I post my little picture and she says, no, there's no drama here. Have fun with your friends who are always in drama. And then shit storm of people being like, how dare you talk to her like that? You're such an asshole. And that was me posting a picture of myself that happened. But you know, ultimately, whatever. I don't really care. But I thought it was funny that it's like, you know, you would think that some like weird shit would happen for me posting my picture. Like maybe someone would figure out the employer that I don't actually have and try to get me fired. That's the traditional way of what happens with thinking that they're my friends. So sorry, that was a long tangent. I'm me in person, but yeah, I might legitimately.
If anybody's in the channel kind of leading up to it, since we'll be kind of hanging around there beforehand. So I guess let me know if you guys have questions about that.
Okay, cool.
But that's in Minneapolis. I think we're gonna start the film at 2 p.m. So anyone in the area who wants to go see the Red Pill for free, and maybe some people who like run an actual men's center and stuff. Because people forget, like, they actually exist. There actually are men's centers out there. So if you're somebody who kind of sits around on YouTube, like I did for literally years, like reading about issues and bitching about them, I'd remind you to maybe Google, see if there's anything nearby, because it's definitely worth looking into.
Oh, and for the record, anybody even remotely close to Seattle, I'm going to be organizing not just a meetup, but an actual semi-organized event where I'm going to give a little teeny kind of a spiel, and I believe Benjamin Boyce will be giving a little spiel. I think I can twist his arm into doing a little 10-minute kind of a talk thing, and then we're all going to just hang out and chat, probably just 30 to 40 of us. And so if anybody's close to the Seattle area, write me an email at mrprinceofqueens@gmail.com. We're going to be organizing it hopefully within the next few months. Or hopefully within the next month, really, actually. So let's go back to talking about gay guy stuff. But let's do these news stories that we have.
Oh, okay, that's me. Sorry. I actually let's speed this up. The first story was a guy who went from Germany to join ISIS, and they used him as a cum bucket. I mean, do we have any real topics or things to say about that?
From the looks of them, a lot of them must have used him for one.
Okay, so do you want to?
Just like, wow.
Well, I just wonder, what was he thinking?
Who knows?
Well, I remember hearing about this back around in 2015. Like it was a whole rash of like British citizens and shit who just like decided to join ISIS. Like that was just the dumbass thing you could do. Some people drop out of high school. Some people get addicted to drugs. Some people fucking join ISIS.
Well,
Rule number one, man, people are dumb.
Yes. The Canadian Security Intelligence Service is actively watching for this and trying to intercept young men before they leave the country. Who have this in mind.
It just reminds me, like, okay, taking a look at that guy's photo, it reminds me. Do you guys remember that South Park episode where they were, the kids were trying to get the sixth graders to do something? They were like, we need the sixth graders to do something. And so, Cartman realized that he could trick them into thinking that his ass was boobs if they drew nipples on it.
That's great.
And they're like, oh man, it's boobs. Oh my god, like, can you touch them? And he's like, sure. And like, so that's just what I'm reminded of. It's like, were they thinking that they were fucking a really chubby female or something because he's so doughy? Like, I don't know. Like, or are they just like actually gay bear chasers or something? I this boggles my mind actually.
Well, what I understand is in Islamic culture, it's not considered gay if you're topping, if you're sexually assaulting another man.
Yeah, I've heard that.
What was his Arab man, for instance?
Wait, Matthew Shepard was raped by a gang of Arab men?
While he was in North Africa, yes.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that part of it. Really?
Mm-hmm.
Did I?
Yep.
Wait, how do I learn about that?
It's probably, if you look up any biography on him, I think it should show up.
Weird.
And then in Afghanistan, the problem, I mean, I'm going out on a limb here talking about this because it's so politically incorrect, but
We'll live.
well, there's a says I can only speculate is because in this very strictest Islamic society, men and women are kept separate, and availability for sexual gratification is difficult. So that's probably why boys turn to one another on occasion. But there's also a problem they had. The Canadian Army was part of the NATO force, and Afghanistan was one of their interpreters told them offhand something to the effect of it's either the boys or their grandmothers they'll be using for sex.
Ew.
Yeah, that was the dancing boys in Afghanistan. That's
yeah, that's a common internet thing. Like that definitely made the rounds when they got footage of that shit. Like, because like there's certain things that, like, you know.
So, well, I'm only raising this in reference to this hapless German boy who I guess thought he was going to be a revolutionary and instead was just repeatedly raped and abused.
Okay, I know it's like totally stereotypical for an MRA to like be skeptical of a rape, but like, are we sure this story's real? It's like really, it's just really crazy.
Yeah, maybe it's exaggerated, but I don't. Well, I mean, I don't know that ISIS really welcomes Europeans or people of Europeans that claim they converted, and well, you don't speak language, you don't know anything about our fight, and what do you expect us to do with you other than?
Yeah, I remember there was some Australian girls that joined ISIS and were used as rape slaves, and that was something like that. But that was years ago. Do you guys remember that story?
Sounds remotely familiar.
It's been a bit, but yes.
Yep.
What I wonder is, like, when ISIS is soy boy or fucking, non-binary intersectional girl to join that end up becoming rape slaves or whatever. Like when this happens, what's the sell? Like, what is the spiel that they give them? Like, do they tell them, "Hey, it's a religion of peace," or is it a slightly more clever angle than that? Because I'm guessing it's more clever.
I was when I was at university, the big thing was rebellion in South and Central America, and there's a certain romance to the idea of going and being a revolutionary. Some people did, I guess, and then before World War II, there was the Spanish Civil War, which lots of young people flocked to. So I guess in this case, I mean, and I'm reminded also of that American girl who was run over by because Hamas is not an organization worth dying for, and the reality is the Palestinian and Hamas view foreigners with suspicion. Like, what are you doing here? And apparently the house she was guarding to stop the bulldozer from destroying was abandoned anyway. So it seems less tragedy.
It was like a Tiananmen Square, but it didn't work.
No, I mean, like Tiananmen, yeah, that I think that.
No, do you know what I'm talking about? Whether the guy stopped the tank.
Yes, I remember the young man. His friends, though, jumped in and pulled him away before he got run over.
Well, I think what it kind of was that was what sparked the actual physical conflict. Because the man in Tiananmen Square, the tank stopped, and then the tank tried to drive around him, and then he got in the tank's way again, and then people realized that it's like, wait, maybe we should fight the tanks, and so they started dragging the barricade. I watched a documentary on PBS about this when I was a kid because my mom didn't have cable television, and stations we actually got was PBS, and I was one of those little kids that was addicted to this TV screen because my dad let me play so much video games. So I just watched documentaries and shit sometimes. And this really stuck out in my memory. So the one guy started, physically confronting the tank. There was all these demonstrators in the square, and there were journalists outside of the square, but the journalists were being kept from going in. Tanks they would start killing people, but they to other countries, and so it was a sort of standoff, trying to get inside of where the students were, and the guy got in front of the tank, and then the tank was too scared to drive him over, and so it was kind of this game of chicken where the guy was like going back and forth, and then once that guy started doing that, the other students realized that they could join in too, and so they started dragging the police barricade, those metal barricade type things. They dragged it across the road because I don't know how they knew this would work, but it ended up messing with the tank conveyor belt thing. Like it couldn't get over them, and then the tanks eventually people would have to get out of the tanks, and then they started pulling them out and like beating them to death, and it was this like crazy thing. But that was a result of the communists trying to keep their power in China, as opposed to now where we're dealing with some sort of combination of like weird Western quasi-communism mixed with quasi-Islamism that hasn't actually happened or something, and I don't know, like nobody will be honest about what's really going on. It's like, are the Islamists communists? Are they working with the communists? Is Angela Merkel really a communist still? Because she kind of acts like it, and she actually was a communist. She was raised. She went to university. And
the thing to remember is that communism originated in the West.
It was in Germany.
This is true.
Yes, the Paris Commune after the French Revolution, and then Marx wrote the manifesto for the French Communist Party, and then he wrote capital and such while he lived in London. In fact, the old joke is, you know where Karl Marx is buried? In a communist plot.
Ha!
I see what you did there.
Yep.
So yeah, the people who are the radicals and such, they get their lessons in communism from universities in the West, and so the East, the Soviet Union was formed, and then it after World War II took over the East Bloc, and communism was taken up in China and South Asia and part across Africa, and then Cuba. But yeah, it's funny. But now the Russians and the East Bloc have all thrown it off. But there's people in the West who are determined to revive it.
So let's move on to the next article. Was it going to be the Can Pride Be a Little Bit Less White this year one?
Yes, and unfortunately, I'm experimenting to see if not putting the article up will actually make the stream go a little better. So I took it down, so I'll just start reading it if you guys don't mind.
That's
it
that's fine. But I just want to say right before you start, can we just get a few less articles that are exactly like this this year? I mean, like, did they literally just publish this same exact article last year? Because I could have sworn they've published this every year since 2012.
Yes, well, it's boilerplate. They probably.
Yeah, I mean, I read through this. It's literally. Yeah, I mean, after reading through this, it's the same word salad with a few new ones thrown in, basically.
It really is. I mean, this article is all over the freaking place.
Wait, how about I'm not even gonna look at it. This is what the article says.
You'll be better off for it.
Every year I go to Pride, and or maybe sometimes I skip Pride, maybe I go. But I was recently talking to a friend of mine who is a woman of color, and she was saying that she feels somewhat invisible, both as a woman and as a person of color. It's really true. If you look at the organizing of most Pride festivals, it's all dominated by majority white gay men. And I think that really needs to be addressed. There's all sorts of marginalized voices in the rainbow community. And it's not just people of color, but trans voices and lesbians, and there's lots of biphobia going around as well. I think that people need to just remember that there's more to being gay than white gay men.
Kind of, except for I think they were. I don't know. I only made it about halfway through before my brain decided I want to try to learn how to vomit.
Well,
let's just read it and see. Let's just read it and then you guys can rate me for accuracy.
The only thing I'm going to say is I think if I remember more accurately, there's the women and trans black folks. Never mind, it might have been just exactly like that if I didn't have mental food poisoning afterwards.
Okay, start reading it.
Anyways. I like to say there was something in the air as to why Pride 2017 here and abroad was one of the most contentious prides ever. Many, however, in our community say the tension was always present. As we rev up for this year's festivities, so too will the fault lines of race, gender... I'm just skipping that. In addition to the main Pride events taking place in many major cities and towns, there will be segments of our community, from women to trans people to black folks, holding their own.
Wait, that's not even a real sentence. Like,
well,
I see what they're getting at, but like, if you're going to say holding their own, you have to have a sentence that comes after that. You have to qualify what they're holding their own up against. That's not a proper paragraph.
That's the issue. The thing to remember is that, like here in Canada, it was a crime to have homosexual sex, and it was you could get life imprisonment for it. And similarly in the U.S., until sodomy laws the Supreme Court once and for all declared they were unconstitutional, there's a history that people wonder why it's so much gay men, that because we're the ones historically who were affected. There were never, that I know of, any laws against transsexual. So surgeries became available starting in the 1920s in Europe, and there was never any law passed preventing anyone that I can find. I've looked high and low that said that were laws passed against people having these reassignment surgeries. And then in the U.S., do any of you remember the tennis player Renee Richards?
Nope.
Unfortunately, no.
No, this was in the 1970s. Renee Richards was a man who transitioned, became Renee Richards, and wanted to play in the professional women's tennis, and they tried to block her, but she won in the lower court that ruled her immediately in her favor, and the tennis decided to accept it. So whereas the fight for gay rights has been a lot harder, and there's I'll post the link. There's what we had, this gay men had to overcome was this. There's a public service movie that was produced in the 1950s, telling boys to beware the homosexual. He's mentally ill. He's the predator. He wants to. This is what the gay rights movement was. It's about throwing off the stigma that somehow if you're a gay man, you're diseased, you're mentally ill, and you've got your eye on boys.
So, Jeff, did you try adjusting your bandwidth connection?
Yes, I think I'm having technical difficulties, unfortunately.
We can still hear you for the most part, but sometimes you cut out a little bit. So, but I mean, it's fine. We can still do the show. I enjoy talking to you.
Live.
Before we get on to the rest of the article, let's just blame the grammar error. Let's just pull a DNC and blame the grammar errors on the Russian bot factory that came up with this article.
Yeah. Wait, I wonder okay, if something is not from the corporate Democrats, then they say it's all Russian bots, including me.
Actually, I'm a Russian bot too.
Yeah,
I'm not real. I'm just shell script, real small one.
Yeah, so is Tim Pool, and I think I'm sure Sargon has been accused of being a Russian agent by now. Like they will say that about literally everybody. But like, what would be the country that that their propaganda comes from? Because there is legitimately like weird trolls from foreign countries that come and like leave comments on my videos sometimes. This happened just the other day under my Michael Hoffman video, which is one of my most viewed videos. The one that's called "The Tragedy of Michael Hoffman." It's in the top 10. It's been a sleeper hit because people search for him a lot. He was this straight guy who was a bodybuilder, but he didn't get like super ripped. He was only like 18, 19 when he became famous because he started doing nudes where he would like jerk off and stuff, like videos. And he was really hot, like a hotter version of Nick Jonas, who was more ripped. And he, as soon as his nude videos leaked to the internet, it only took a few weeks, probably maybe a few months, and he was probably getting a few $1,000s for them, and he kept doing it, just probably being a dumb kid, like not thinking that he would become like world famous to every gay guy would masturbate to him, period. And that happened, and even still people do YouTube searches for him, and so people are like searching my video is about how this actually ruined his life and now he has major issues. And my video is like, that's kind of sad, guys. And like, people don't care. Like, people don't give a shit. Gay guys are just like completely merciless and able to like, people talk about objectifying women. Well, what about men? And people don't have sympathy for men. Like, people can at least have sympathy for women, but when something like this happens to a man, like, I've literally had guys in my comments saying, I don't feel sorry for him, that's what he gets. And I'm like, let me guess, you masturbated to him. And they're like, you're damn right I masturbated to him.
Yeah, I kind of have to feel sorry for him here. I mean, for example, one of my sex videos ended up getting released on the internet, and I had to issue my first and only DMCA takedown notices over that.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was like, okay, just kind of doing some research, and then all of a sudden, oh shit,
Yeah, well, and it's like, I feel sorry for him in the way that I have compassion, in the way that like he probably didn't know that like it would become this thing where all these people in his hometown would recognize him and snicker and be like, that's the guy that eats his cum on camera. Like, he probably just had no idea about that because he's a straight guy. He didn't realize how much hotter he was than all the other guys. Like, you probably just wouldn't, like, he knew he was good looking because he was a bodybuilder, but he probably didn't realize that it was going to be that. And, you do stupid stuff when you're young. He doesn't deserve to be cursed for the rest of his life. That's not fair. That's my only point. And all these guys are like, whatever, screw him. I have no sympathy. And I'm like, oh yeah, did you masturbate to him? And they're like, yeah, I did. And I still have no sympathy. And it's like, that's fucked up. You're a fucked up person if that's your attitude. So somebody was saying that to me, right? And then underneath him, some other guy from I don't know where, like either somewhere in the Middle East or India is what it looked like. He started saying that he agreed with this other guy. And I'm like, oh, really? Why? Could you explain yourself? And he was speaking in the most broken English. He could barely speak English or speak right. He could barely write in English. And then the beginning of every word that he wrote had a capital letter, and as I recall, basically zero punctuation. And it was like, okay, this has to be some weird hired foreign troll or something that's like getting paid to spam comments, like spam like weird homophobic stuff or anti-gay stuff, encourage, because the stuff that this like Middle Eastern guy was saying was basically like, yeah, people should not make their living doing what this man did, and like shit like that. And it's like, okay, there's no way that some guy who lives in the Middle East who's just anti-gay is gonna, under his own volition, go around posting mean things. I mean, maybe he's some gay guy, and I don't know, maybe, but like it was really, really, really quite strange. So the notion they accuse anyone who's not a regressive leftist, anybody who's not a corporate Democrat, who doesn't side with the corporate Democrats, they accuse of being Russian. Well, what country should we say that they are when we want to say that they're just a bot? Let's say they're. Oh no! I got it. You're a Venezuelan bot.
That's a good one.
Progressia.
So,
I'm just trying to think of any kind of country that has anywhere close to the negative connotations that we had from the Red Scare. It's kind of difficult to do.
I just think Venezuelan bot has a particular poetic potency because they just had a socialist revolution, and now people are like breaking into the zoo to steal animals that they can eat for their meat. And it's just funny to imagine Venezuelan people having bots to fuck with the internet. So let's keep going with the article. That's why people tune in, is to hear us talk about gay stuff.
Okay. Anyways, Pride is about the varied expression of life's gifts, of the life, gifts, and talents of the entire community. But the divisions in our community during Pride also show us something troubling and broken within ourselves. Last year at a black queer resistance rose up across the country and beyond, denouncing the glib notion that gay is the new black. Last year...
Wait, what?
Really?
What does that even mean? What does that mean? And last year, a black queer resistance okay, and for the record, the year before, too, didn't they also, like, halt the fucking... Because I remember that fucking Toronto Pride, Black Lives Matter fucking interruption thing. I think that was, like, 2016, because I was using pictures from that in my videos for a long time. Like, so... Last year, a black queer resistance rose up. They fucking rise up every year. What are you talking about? Those motherfuckers. Like, the little black queer fucking QTPOC motherfuckers. Oh my god. Jesus. They want their own dorm. Like, let them have their own dorm. I just don't... Ugh. And it's not about their race. I will definitely hang out with anybody of any skin color. But if you call yourself QTPOC, that is a political label, and I want nothing to do with you. You're awful.
I'll just call him Q-tip for the rest of it.
Yeah. I hate Q-tips.
Call you 50%.
Anyways, back to my huffy voiced word salad. Last year, Philadelphia memorably had a controversy over its new pride flag. Black and brown stripes were added to the rainbow flag as part of the city's More Color, More Pride campaign, as a way to visibly include people of color in the celebrations. It's a push for people to start listening to the people of color in our community, start hearing what they're saying, and really to believe them, and to step up and say, what can we do to help eradicate these issues in our community? Amber Heights...
Wait, am I the only one that's noticed that they haven't actually mentioned any of the issues?
Yeah, I know. I mean,
Thank you. Oh, wait. No, it's the issues that they aren't heard and they aren't believed. But they're not actually saying anything.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's like, they aren't heard.
Oh, and that we have to shut up and listen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, and it's like, they're okay. First of all, they are heard. They are always, like, we are demanded that we agree with the marginalized people. Every year, we are reminded as white gay men that thou shall not talk back to a queer trans person of color, or to a queer woman of color, or somebody with more intersections than you. That's what we are. That is the message that we have been told I'm really glad. This is making me happy that we're getting to read this, because yet again, it's proving why I started my channel, why I got together this Gaytriarchy thing it's a reaction to this. They keep pumping it out. This fucking shit. Like, it's a push for people to start listening to people of color in our community. No, it's a fucking reminder that we're not allowed to talk. To start hearing what they're saying, to start agreeing with what they're saying, and to really believe them and step up. Okay, and to really you're saying the same thing 3 fucking times. Mm-hmm. You're telling us who's boss, and then they want us to say, what can I do to help eradicate these issues in our community? That's what they're saying, is they want us to they have a contract, which is hey, pledge allegiance to the intersectional army, sign here, and they want us to sign here. That's what they mean when they say, what can I do to help eradicate these issues in our community? Considering they're not telling us what these issues are, that's a contractual agreement. It's basically like, when we have a use for you, will you do what we want you to? Okay, cool. Sign here. That's all they're fucking saying.
Yeah, nobody gets a blank check.
Yeah. Like I was thinking
Well-
about this article over the week, and I'm like, okay, so a lot of the people of color, the whatever the whatever they want to call black people now. Okay, so a lot of them can't put food on the table, and they have to ride buses that suck. But we're gonna trot them out like show ponies at Pride, and that's gonna make everything magically better. It's like, how fucking patronizing is this? It's like, is it
Incredibly.
Well, it's like a new religious movement. They're trying to convert you, and I feel like Groucho Marx and said something to the effect that he would never want membership in a club that would have him as a member. And no, I stay away basically, but it's troubling for me at times because I interact in hunting circles and such, where most of the other people are men and women who are heterosexual, and I worry that this is the impression they're getting that, oh, this is what gay people are like.
Mm-hmm.
Funny story about I was trying to rack my brain and think, they talk about these issues, but they don't actually name any. If we go down, do they actually like list some examples of something that happened to the Q-tips? That's
so good a stick.
I don't even know. My brain got food poisoning halfway through, and I'm just like, fuck it. No.
Yeah, I see what you're saying now, dude. Like I'm gonna be blowing chunks out both ends all night, honestly. Like, but the thing is
Mm-hmm.
when they have to like come up with these like examples of discrimination within the gay male community, and it generally boils down to two things from my memory, and remind me if I forget something, but these are the two examples. It's generally what white guys put on their hookup profiles. And actually this isn't confined just to white guys, because it turns out that black guys mostly want to date white guys too for some reason. I don't know why, but that's my experience. But because I certainly had a lot of black guys interested in me when I was a pretty young thing, and they would certainly tell me that they're like, oh, I never date black men, blah 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 blah. Like that happened. But that's the biggest, most common complaint, is that white guys won't date us enough, and also other black guys won't date other black guys, and they try to come up with some way to like relate that to slavery because reasons. But I think that we could probably come up with a few reasons why gay guys would, even if they might be sexually attracted to black guys, might be hesitant towards dating black guys. Like I'm not going to say those reasons. I don't want to say them out loud, but I think that everybody can think in their head, well, why is it that black women will commonly say, I try not to date black men? Like well, I don't know if that's a super, super common thing. But
the more common stereotype is complaining that they have too many white girlfriends.
Yeah, actually that's true. I caught myself saying something somewhat untrue, and I was just sort of thinking out loud and rambling. But it's very true.
Some of them though, like, you're not totally wrong,
No, but it's very true within the gay male community that there's a lot of black guys that won't date other black guys. And I don't know if it has to do with I like the fact that there's a lot of homophobia in the black community. I don't know what it is, or if there's other reasons, but there is this weird thing. But that's like a whole issue that can be discussed, and but we're not allowed to talk about that anymore. Now it's just like blame Whitey, and then the other thing that is the issue that gets brought up sometimes, and this gets brought up especially if you live in San Francisco or New York, is that there's some gay bars that sometimes kick out black people.
Seriously?
Yeah. If a gay bar kicks out a black person once or twice, it becomes an issue, and that gay bar is smeared as homophobic, and it's the owner's fault, and blah, or not homophobic. I don't think you actually go out to Castro bars much, do you? Bacon?
Myself. No, I actually don't go to San Francisco very often. I'm about 30 miles away from it.
Oh, okay.
I'm out in the suburbs.
So, and they're like right across the street from each other. Like I always tell people, all of San Francisco is basically a gay neighborhood, but the Castro's like the mall.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, like, because you can't go to the Castro and, like, you know, even the burrito place has a rainbow flag in it. So, Toad Hall and Badlands are both the same owners, and they're gay bars, and they kept being accused of being racist for kicking out black, and it was kind of a as they say on the internet, it was always kind of a didn't do, sort of a he didn't do nothing, and like they must have just kicked him out for no reason because they don't want black people going there. And of course, I never went to those fucking bars. Those weren't the bars that I like to go to because they were like the fucking mainstream bars. And those are the bars where they are more likely to play top 40. Black gay men are at those two bars. So it's this like completely absurd rumor that those are the racist bars because they kicked out black men who didn't do nothing. But like those are apparently that's just where all the black guys go. Like, and it's silly, but
no, dude, I had a similar experience though too. Sorry, you're gonna finish, but like,
no, I'm
it's a weird thing. Like, there's this gay bar in Minneapolis, and I went there on like one night, and I think that they had like a 2-for-1 thing. Like, they had like super ridiculously like cheap like rail drinks, right? Of course, it's like gay bar drinks, so they're like ridiculously strong too. Like, so I went there, and like, there's just tons of black people. Like, I didn't get them. I don't get the memo or whatever. And like, usually it's not quite like that. I'm not sure if there was like an event, but I think it was just like a regular. I was like, I don't know. Is it usually like this? Like, you came on a Thursday. Like, I don't know. It was just like a really weird thing. And I guess it was fine. Like, one sip of their drinks and just like made this like awful like furrowed like face, and they just like chucked it. Like the whole thing was like gross. Like, I was like, what the hell? This isn't a drink. Like, literally, they just like poured vodka on ice into a little plastic cup and then just like hand you a Red Bull. Like,
so.
Yeah.
So there was this like long-standing gay club there all the time. Call a bar racist to, you know, over 1,000 friends on being like, don't attend Badlands again. They kicked out 4 black young men and they weren't doing anything. And it's like this copy in like every straight white girl and their sister is sharing that shit. You know what I mean?
Dude, yeah, this is like it's the Waffle House phenomenon too. Like, it's an epidemic among Waffle Houses specifically.
So, being said, that's the thing that happens. This happened, I think, last summer or the summer before, to a bar that one of my, I don't want to say best friends because I haven't been like best friends with him in a very long time, but like 13 years ago, for about 6 months, we were like best friends in New York City. And I stayed in touch with him, and I hung out with him at least three since then. Like, when he would come visit Seattle or San Francisco, or when I would visit New York, I would always see him and hang out with him. So we're still tight. He is a bartender at Night of Gay New York because of his job. And they had a scare of that place being accused of being okay. Not only is that bar pretty well respected, like it has a pretty good, pretty decent reputation, but they kicked her out on this one guy who's a DJ and promoter was promoting his night, and he's a big drama queen. I actually used to know this guy, and so they were trying to call that place racist for kicking her out, and she left like a Yelp review and like started this chain letter. But then all people bar industry people started chit chatting with each other, and it turned out that like she had gotten kicked out of other bars, and the reason that she got kicked out is that when she gets wasted, she starts grabbing other people's drinks and drinking them. and then when they get mad at her, she freaks out and starts yelling at them. You're like, why are you mad at me? Y'all are racist. No, some shit like that, because she gets like crazy wasted. And so I was able, I didn't live in New York, but I was able to observe this. Like, I was like looking at Yelp comments, and like there was like arguing back and forth about like what happened. And it was like, no, you crazy drunk bitch, you were grabbing people's drinks, and this is a pattern. You were doing it over at the other bar. My friend told me they had to kick you out there too, bitch. And like, it's so fucking funny. So, you look at like The Advocate is like writing these like things where they no longer even cite what the alleged racism within the gay community even is. And I have to wonder if it's because like girls like that abused their like, privilege of getting to call racism. And now they're like, okay, let's not actually cite any of the instances because we've lost all our credibility by crying.
We just fuck it up every time. If we actually cite something, then they'll pin us down.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. Well, can we get back to the fagafesto on this one of this bullshit? Sure. Anyways, down in D.C., the nation's capital, it's always a big draw during its Pride Parade. But the city's white communities aren't always inviting, and last year many of the people of African descent spoke about this. We don't socialize together. There are a few places where black and white people socialize together, which is the basis of relationships and friendships, the basis of understanding, Earl Fox told the Washington Blade. He is the executive director of the Center for Black Equity, a national DC-based group that advocates for black LGBT people and helps organize black pride events in the U.S. and abroad. And until we start doing... Oh, God, I can't keep up with a huffy voice. I'll just read this normally. And until we start doing that and creating those spaces to do that, we're going to have misunderstandings and lack of sensitivity toward issues of race, which we haven't fucking named so far. Anyways, it mentions Montreal. Anyways, the organizers of Gay BLM disrupted the minute of silence during the Pride Parade because of Pride's whitewashing and complicity in erasing of its black and racialized origins during the Stonewall uprisings of 1969. Basically, this is the "we was trans black queens" excuse.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the thing that Sylvia Rivera, the Latina woman of color, the Latina trans woman of color brave leader that did all of the work at Stonewall, the one who also hates intersectionals, as I found out that I have footage of her talking shit about them. Okay, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so this is literally, it's like, okay, what, did one of those like writing algorithms crap this out? Because that's what it seems like.
Well, I do have a long-running theory that like these pathetic adjunct professor, people who like were like an adjunct. What do they call it if you teach at a community college? Like, what is your employment position? Are you actually?
No, adjunct is often the thing.
Yeah, it's adjunct is part-time, and then tenure track is full-time.
So if you teach at a community college, you can be called a professor.
Yes.
Weird. So I'm just verifying. So these people are like adjunct professors at community colleges, and then sometimes they write for like Everyday Feminism, and that was like a cool little gig, and they were like able to make ends meet during the Obama, the second half of the Obama years, since Everyday Feminism became a thing. But now like they're all pinching pennies, and I think that they're getting their students to write these things for them, is my theory.
Wouldn't surprise me.
I just like, there's this thing they do, and it's like this annoying rhetorical trick where you say like two things and you repeat it over and over again, but then as you repeat it, you kind of flatten and simplify it. And like with this whole narrative, they can't decide if like the racism is because not enough is being done, and it's kind of this implicit kind of meandering thing that just kind of becomes racist on accident, or if it's deliberate, right? Like with that, they have this that quote from our good friend Marsha P. Johnson in there, where she talks about actions or lack of actions, right? And then right in the next freaking paragraph, they talk about the deliberate bleaching or whatever of the Stonewall riots narrative, and it's like, Jesus Christ, deliberate bleaching. I don't think I ever do anything that severe. I think that I've called people rapists, and like that's not as severe as a deliberate bleaching. Like,
Well, and I think that when they say the deliberate bleaching, what they mean is that movie, that Stonewall movie that had the white guy as the main character and he threw the first brick, and that's pretty much all they mean. Because like there's no sort of like, there was all sorts of books and there's probably documentaries about Stonewall, and I should watch them, and Wikipedia. There's, other than that guy starring as the role in the movie, there's no sort of whitewashing. Everybody admitted that it was like, you know, there were racial minorities there. Now, granted, it wasn't mostly racial minorities, because that's the truth. It was mostly white guys.
yeah, and in all likelihood, it probably was a white guy who threw the first brick. So like, it's not even inaccurate. Like, what are they even supposed to be apologizing for?
Honestly, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised if nobody threw anything, and that's the story we're going with.
Oh yeah, actually, it was just like a theatrical fucking West Side Story dance versus the cops. Like,
yeah, or someone just threw a punch and called someone a pig, and that was it. And the throwing of whatever is just added later as for theatric effect.
They had water balloons filled with like you know, with pina coladas.
Did you racists know that a black man sucked the first cock?
Wow.
Well, Spacepan, by
I saw it on the fucking pyramids.
Well,
Black
Spacepan,
men
we're all
invented-
racists.
But yeah, we need to start thinking about how are we going to celebrate this Pride Month, really, on the Gaytriarchy.
I don't know.
Historic glory holes.
Oh, that was actually a thing.
That was totally an article.
Oh, you know what else is a thing? This fucking next article about the cum dumps and the entry price. I just love that, like, this is gay culture, right? They have it's like humans are supposed to have big events and big spectacles, right? And then you go to the gay culture and it's like, oh, we're organizing a cum dump. We're inviting all of our friends and we need the right ratio to create this experience. And then it's like fucking gay weddings are a fucking joke. And then
I haven't looked it up yet.
oh my god, it's the greatest article ever.
Yeah, do you want to listen to that?
I didn't mean to like kill the other one.
Which one is it? Which one is it?
The tops pay less to enter a sex club.
Tops. Hey,
I feel like we can talk about this Advocate article forever.
I'll read this one.
And there will be more articles like this Advocate one too, so